Welcome back to the Holy Discussion. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of our deep dives. Today we're going to be exploring a woman's journey out of porn addiction.
A really powerful story that you shared with us.
Yeah, it's really incredible how faith and struggle are so intertwined in her experience.
And what's so fascinating is how her story, it isn't just personal, it touches on this much larger societal issue. You know, we see the hidden struggles that so many women face with pornography, and it's interesting how faith, shame, and even just societal expectations play a role in her journey towards recovery.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And she starts by talking about her early experiences with sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one moment, she's watching TV with her mom, and a scene pops up with some suggestive content. And she's only 10 years old at this time.
And that's such a crucial point, I think, because it highlights how messages about sexuality, even subtle ones, can have a really deep impact at a young age. And for her, it seems to have sparked a lot of shame and confusion.
Absolutely. She even talks about repenting for her parents just because of that scene.
Wow.
You know, you can just sense how deeply ingrained these ideas about good and bad were, even at such a young age.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how many other young people are internalizing similar messages and then feeling ashamed or afraid to even talk about it.
Exactly. And that fear seems to have been a big part of her story.
Yeah.
She mentioned struggling with fantasies, but being terrified to ask for help because she didn't want to be seen as bad.
Right, because that's often the message, that these things are bad and you're bad if you experience them.
Right. And so she kind of kept it all bottled up inside.
Mm-hmm.
And things take a turn when she gets an iPod Touch at 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's like it opens up this whole new world for her, but not in a good way.
Yeah, that's so relevant to today, isn't it? I mean, with technology, the access to explicit content has exploded, and it's something we need to be much more aware of, especially when it comes to children.
And she talks about finding porn on that iPod Touch and becoming addicted very quickly. And what stood out to me was her feeling like a freak because she was a girl struggling with this. There's this misconception that it's primarily a men's issue.
Right.
And it adds another layer of isolation, I think, for women.
Absolutely. Pornography addiction, it affects individuals of all genders, and I think it's so important to break down these harmful stereotypes so that everyone can feel safe seeking help.
Exactly. And this is where the double life aspect comes in.
Mm-hmm.
She was battling this addiction in secret while being active in her church, even serving in leadership roles. It's just heartbreaking to imagine the internal conflict that she must have been going through.
It really does, and it speaks volumes about the pressure that so many people feel to maintain a perfect image, especially within religious communities. And, you know, that pressure, it can be so isolating and prevent people from really being honest about their struggles and seeking the support that they desperately need.
And it seems like that pressure intensifies for her when she's 17. She has a brain aneurysm,
Right.
And she believes it might have been linked to spiritual warfare after she shared her faith with some coworkers.
That's a really complex aspect of her story. And whether or not you believe in spiritual warfare, it raises crucial questions about the connection between stress, our spiritual lives, and our physical health.
And it certainly shows how multifaceted our well-being is and how much we still don't fully understand about this interplay between our minds, bodies, and spirits.
Right. There's so much that we're still learning, and her story, I think, highlights that.
And even after this life-threatening experience, she still relapsed. It's a harsh reminder, I think, that addiction is a complex battle, and that sometimes traumatic events can actually increase our vulnerability.
What's interesting is how this part of her story highlights the cyclical nature of addiction. It isn't always a straight line towards recovery. Even when we make progress, there can be setbacks, and I think that's something important to remember.
Absolutely. And for her, that breaking point comes in 2020. She describes this pivotal moment of surrender to God, using this image of sin as a barrier between her and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
It was like finally acknowledging the depth of her struggle and the need for help.
It takes a lot of courage to be that vulnerable, both with ourselves and with a higher power, or even just with others in our lives who can offer support.
Absolutely. And what happens next is incredible. Her whole family goes through this collective deliverance process, and she talks about seeing freedom and healing, not just in herself, but also in her siblings who are battling their own struggles.
I find this so interesting because it speaks to how interconnected we are, especially within families. When one person makes a breakthrough, it can create this ripple effect and impact everyone around them.
It's amazing. And, you know, to top it all off, she's now written a book titled Girls Do Too, specifically to help other women battling porn addiction.
What a powerful way to use her experience to offer hope and support to others. It's really about breaking the silence and letting people know they're not alone in this.
It's so inspiring, and I can't wait to dive deeper into her story with you. But for now, we're going to take a quick break and be back in just a few minutes.
Sounds good.
You know, it's interesting how she talked about feeling like a freak because she was a girl struggling with this addiction.
Right, like it was something shameful or taboo for a woman to experience.
Exactly, and it makes you think about how often we try to fit into these neat little boxes that society creates for us.
Absolutely. There's so much pressure to conform, especially when it comes to gender roles and expectations.
And that pressure can be so isolating, especially when we're struggling with something that we feel ashamed of or embarrassed about.
It's like we're afraid to show our true selves because we're worried about being judged or rejected.
And that's why it's so important to create spaces where people feel safe, to be vulnerable, to share their stories without fear of judgment.
I couldn't agree more. Vulnerability is such a powerful catalyst for connection and healing.
And it's something that she embodies throughout her story. The way she talks about her struggles, her doubts, her fears. It's so raw and honest.
It's incredibly brave of her to share her story in such a vulnerable way. And I think it's so important because it reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles. We all have our battles, even those who seem perfect on the outside.
And that brings us to another really powerful aspect of her story. The collective deliverance process that she and her family went through. What are your thoughts on that, especially considering the impact it had on her siblings?
It's fascinating, isn't it? It speaks to the interconnectedness of families and how one person's healing can create this ripple effect throughout the entire family system.
Yeah, it's like this incredible chain reaction where one person's breakthrough can inspire and empower others to do the same.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of addressing not just individual issues, but also the underlying family patterns that might be contributing to those issues. It's recognizing that we're not isolated individuals, but rather part of a larger system, and that the healing of one person can impact everyone within that system.
So it's not just about individual therapy or individual healing. It's about looking at the family as a whole.
Right. And it's not always easy, of course. This process can be challenging and even painful at times, but ultimately it can lead to deeper levels of intimacy and connection within the family unit.
It's about recognizing those patterns.
Yeah.
And creating healthier ways of relating to each other.
Absolutely. It's like clearing out the cobwebs of the past, making space for new, healthier patterns to emerge.
It's incredible how even after experiencing this profound deliverance, she still faced moments of doubt and questioning.
Right. It shows that growth, whether it's spiritual growth or personal growth, it's not a one-time event. It's an ongoing journey.
It's not a straight line. There are going to be ups and downs, moments of clarity, and moments of confusion.
Exactly. And her honesty about these challenges makes her story all the more relatable. It's a reminder that it's okay to have doubts, to wrestle with those big questions, and to keep seeking answers.
It reminds me of that quote, "The opposite of faith isn't doubt, it's certainty." It's about embracing the unknown and continuing to learn and grow throughout our lives.
I love that quote. And it's through those struggles, through those moments of doubt and questioning that our faith or our understanding of ourselves and the world around us can deepen and mature.
She also talked about the importance of forgiveness in her journey. Not just forgiving others, but also forgiving herself.
Yes, forgiveness is such a crucial aspect of healing, and often the hardest person to forgive is ourselves.
It's like we tend to be our own worst critics, holding ourselves to these impossible standards.
Absolutely. We carry around all this baggage of guilt and shame, and it weighs us down, preventing us from moving forward.
It's so true. And her story is a powerful reminder that we all make mistakes, we all have regrets, but we all deserve compassion and grace.
Especially from ourselves.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity and understanding that making mistakes is part of the human experience. It's how we learn and grow.
And forgiveness, whether it's forgiving ourselves or forgiving others, is an act of liberation. It's about releasing that anger and resentment that holds us captive and choosing to move forward with love and understanding.
And sometimes it's not about condoning the hurtful actions, but it's more about freeing ourselves from the burden of carrying that pain and resentment.
Exactly. It's about choosing to let go and create space for healing and peace.
One of the most powerful things about her story is her decision to share her experience so openly, both through her testimony and through her book, Girls Do Too.
It's an act of incredible courage and vulnerability. And it's so powerful because it has the potential to break down stigma and offer hope to others who might be struggling silently.
It makes you realize the power of our stories and how sharing our experiences can create connection and community.
It's about letting people know that they're not alone, that there's hope for healing, and that their stories matter.
And sometimes just hearing someone else's story can be incredibly validating and empowering, especially when it's a story that resonates with our own experiences.
Absolutely. It can give us the strength to keep going, to seek help, to believe that change is possible.
And that's why it's so important to create spaces where people feel safe to share their stories without fear of judgment or shame.
And to listen to those stories with compassion and empathy, recognizing the courage it takes to be vulnerable and authentic.
She also talked about how the act of writing her book was incredibly healing for her. Putting her experiences into words, making sense of her past, sharing it with the world, it was like this cathartic release.
It's amazing how creative expression can be so therapeutic. Whether it's writing, art, music, or any other form of creative outlet, it allows us to process our emotions, gain clarity, and connect with ourselves and others in a really meaningful way.
And it can be a powerful tool for healing and transformation.
Absolutely. And her story is a beautiful example of that. By embracing her vulnerability and sharing her story, she's not only helped herself heal, but she's also created a ripple effect of hope and inspiration for others.
Now, one of the things that really stood out to me in her story was the vivid imagery she used to describe her struggle with addiction. She talked about feeling like a freak because she was a girl battling this like it was something shameful or wrong.
It speaks volumes about the stigma surrounding female sexuality and how deeply ingrained those societal messages can be, even from a young age.
It's like girls are given this very narrow definition of what it means to be a woman. And if they experience anything outside of that, they feel like they're somehow broken or defective.
Exactly. And that can lead to so much shame and isolation, especially when it comes to something like pornography addiction, which is already so stigmatized.
She also described her addiction as a monster, something that consumed her thoughts and controlled her actions. It's almost like it took on a life of its own, separate from her.
That's such a powerful image. And it highlights how overwhelming and all-encompassing addiction can be.
It can feel like you're battling something bigger than yourself, something that has this incredible grip on your life.
And that's why it's so important to have support, to know that you don't have to fight this alone.
Whether it's through therapy, support groups, or simply having a strong network of friends and family who understand and care, having that support system can make all the difference.
It's like having a lifeline when you feel like you're drowning. Someone to throw you a rope and help you back to shore.
She also used this really powerful metaphor of sin as a barrier between her and her relationship with Jesus. It was like her addiction created this wall, this separation.
That image really speaks to the spiritual dimension of addiction and how it can impact our relationship with our faith or with whatever higher power or guiding force we believe in.
It's like the addiction creates this distance, this disconnect. And it can be really hard to bridge that gap on your own.
That's where spiritual guidance and support can be so crucial. Having a strong spiritual foundation, whether it's through a religious community, a personal spiritual practice, or simply a belief in something bigger than ourselves, can provide immense comfort and strength during difficult times.
And one of the most pivotal moments in her story is when she describes finally surrendering her addiction, letting go of that control, and allowing a higher power to guide her.
That moment of surrender is so powerful because it's about recognizing that we don't have to fight our battles alone. There's a source of strength and healing that's greater than ourselves.
It's about having faith, not just in a higher power, but also in ourselves and in the process of healing.
And surrender, it's not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. There are going to be moments of temptation, moments when the fear and shame come rushing back.
And that's when it's so important to remember that we have a choice. We can choose to turn back to our old ways, or we can choose to lean into that higher power, to draw strengths from our faith, from our support system, from whatever resources help us stay on the path toward healing.
And she talks about how she learned to do just that. She learned to turn to her faith, to lean on her understanding of God in those difficult moments. It's like building a muscle. The more we practice surrender, the stronger we become.
And what's so beautiful is that she describes this profound sense of lightness and liberation after finally surrendering her addiction and allowing herself to be fully seen and known. It's like she finally shed this heavy armor she'd been wearing for so long and stepped into this new season of freedom and authenticity.
It's a powerful reminder that true freedom is possible, no matter how trapped we may feel in our struggles. It's about breaking free from those chains of addiction, shame, and self-condemnation, and stepping into this new way of being.
It's about reclaiming our worth and embracing who we truly are.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that freedom, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey that takes time, patience, and a willingness to embrace the ups and downs along the way.
And she emphasizes the importance of seeking support throughout that journey, whether it's through therapy, support groups, or having a strong network of friends and family who understand and care.
It's about recognizing that we don't have to go through this alone. There are people who want to help, who want to see us thrive.
And reaching out for support, it takes courage, but it's a sign of strength, not weakness.
And her decision to share her story so publicly, both through her testimony and her book, Girls Do Too, is a testament to that strength. It's an act of incredible vulnerability and courage, and it has the potential to impact countless lives.
Because by sharing our stories, we give others permission to do the same. We create a ripple effect of hope and healing that can extend far beyond ourselves.
And it's a reminder that our stories matter. They have the power to change lives, to break down stigma, and to create a more compassionate and understanding world.
What a powerful message and what an inspiring journey.
And it's really inspiring to see how she's now using her experience to help others who are going through similar struggles.
Yeah, her book, Girls Do Too, is a testament to that. It's about breaking the silence and letting people know that they're not alone.
It's about offering hope and empowering women to seek healing and wholeness.
And what's so powerful about her message is that it's not just about overcoming addiction. It's about finding true freedom, about embracing our worth and stepping into our authentic selves.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our struggles don't define us. They're part of our journey, but they don't have to dictate our destiny.
And she emphasizes this idea of surrendering control, allowing a higher power to work in our lives.
That's such a key theme throughout her story. It's about recognizing that we don't have to do everything on our own strength, that there's a source of strength and healing that's greater than ourselves.
It's about having faith, not just in a higher power, but also in ourselves and in the process of healing.
In that surrender, it's not a passive act. It actually takes a lot of courage to let go of our need to control and to trust that there's a plan for our lives, even when we can't see the whole picture.
It's about embracing the unknown and being willing to step outside of our comfort zones.
And she describes that feeling of lightness and liberation that came with surrender. It's like she finally shed that heavy burden she'd been carrying for so long.
It's a beautiful image, isn't it? That feeling of freedom and wholeness.
And it's a reminder that no matter how trapped we may feel in our struggles, true freedom is possible. It's about breaking free from those chains of addiction, shame, and self-condemnation and stepping into a new way of being.
And she talks about how that freedom didn't come overnight. It was a journey with ups and downs, moments of doubt, and moments of clarity. But she kept moving forward, one step at a time.
And she emphasizes the importance of seeking support along the way, whether it's through therapy, support groups, or simply having a strong network of friends and family who understand and care.
It's a reminder that we don't have to go through this alone.
We need each other, we need support, and we need to know that we're not the only ones who have faced challenges.
And her story, it's a testament to the power of vulnerability and authenticity. By sharing her experiences, she's not only helped herself heal, but she's also created this ripple effect of hope and inspiration for countless others.
It's a reminder that our stories matter, and that by sharing them, we can make a difference in the world.
Absolutely. We can break down stigma, offer support, and create a more compassionate and understanding world.
And you know what really strikes me about her story? It's how it highlights that addiction doesn't discriminate. It can affect anyone, regardless of gender, age, or background.
It's a reminder that there's no shame in seeking help, and that recovery is possible for everyone.
And I think her story also offers a powerful message of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always light to be found.
It's about recognizing our inherent worth and value, embracing our imperfections, and allowing ourselves to be fully seen and loved just as we are.
That's such a beautiful message, and it's something that I think we can all hold on to, no matter what challenges we may be facing in our own lives.
Well said.
Okay.
And on that note, I want to thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It's been an honor to explore this woman's incredible journey with you.
It really has, and I hope her story has resonated with you as much as it has with us.
And if you're struggling with any of the issues we discussed today, please know that you're not alone. There are resources available to help you. Don't be afraid to reach out for support.
Because healing is possible, and you deserve to live a life filled with freedom and joy.
Thanks again for listening.